Okay,
Oh,
you
did it
guys
show
are
up
ready
now?
to go?
Oh, then I said, I need.
Okay, so we want to welcome you to the January 6th city work meeting. And Cottonwood Heights City Council. Yeah, oh, okay.
Skip signing it.
Okay. All right. And the first item on the work session agenda is a review of the business meeting agenda. And so I will summarize that. In the business meeting following the Pledge of Allegiance, there will be a normal opportunity for public comment. And then we will have,
You want to ask somebody to do the pledge?
oh, I have asked Shane to give our pledge. Yeah. And he said he had not done that since he was in grade school.
I hope I remember it.
Just start with I and then.
Hi. So that's another reason people should join Women's State Legislative Council in Utah. And I think it's very appropriate because this will be his fourth mayor he's worked with for our city to have us start off with him. And then following the pledge, oh, and then we will, yeah, after the Pledge of Allegiance, we will then, after that citizen comment period, Senator Kathleen Reeby will present a legislative citation honoring Stan Rosenzweig. And do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's great.
And I verified with her, she's coming.
She was gonna bring a citation with her, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And then we'll have a regularly scheduled staff report by Public Works Director Matt Shipp. And following that report, the council will consider 10 legislative action items. And the first is ordinance 358, adopting an annual meeting schedule for 2026 for the city's public bodies as required by statute. And the second ordinance is 459, imposing a telecommunications tax. And Jared will be providing a staff report soon after.
Just gonna pull that over to Sean when we get to it.
Okay.
Just kidding. Either way. No.
Okay. And then the third is ordinance 460 granting, oh no, then we're down to 461, amending the city code concerning bonding of officers. And this is something that's required, I think, by new statute.
Actually, 460 is in there. It's also it's a telecommunications franchise ordinance.
That's right, from All Fiber West. Do you have anything to add, Jared, Matt, or Shane?
I had Matt pull some information on it, so they're. This
All fiber, oh,
this is
sorry.
all fiber, you know, all west fiber.
Yeah. Real quickly, this is a franchise agreement, which we allow for utilities to be in our right of way. We have a certain requirements. They follow our codes. They follow our designs, the construction and design standards. And if they meet all that, council reviews and approves. All West is a fiber company who's asking to come into the city with a franchise agreement. And they aren't here. They aren't here today, I don't believe. Oh, they are. Oh, I was gonna speak for you and tell you how wonderful you all are. I haven't asked them to speak, but if you have any questions, I'm sure they can help answer some of those. But they've sent a little information to me and they are planning on getting started and within 2 years trying to be through their project. If they get this, I believe you're gonna start in the northwest corner of the city and start working their way east. So if y'all have any questions, Mayor, it's up to you if you'd like to invite them up.
Do you have the council?
So I would like a bit of education on if the city of Cottonwood Heights, do we have an ordinance that requires us to accept any business that wants to come into our city?
Yes, we're required to allow utilities to use the public right of way on these telecommunications franchises. All of the companies have to use our same ordinance. It's a standard ordinance. We don't allow them to negotiate special deals for themselves because we need to treat all of the competitors equally. So this is a form ordinance. This is probably the 5th or 6th time in my recollection that we have granted telecommunications franchise ordinance in the public right of way. And so it's worked well in the past and we're doing the same thing with this new.
Well, the reason I asked is that I've had a number of constituents over the last 4 years complain about work being done by fiber and companies, telecommunication companies, in terms of disturbing their landscaping, or, you know, they don't understand who they are, they haven't gotten advance notice. So in each case, it was sometimes hard to find out what company was even working there. So the nature of my question is that, you know, yet another set of lines going through the city, I believe is disruptive to the residents. But if we are mandated to accept all these telecommunication companies, then that ends my question. But I do want my residents, my constituents to know that I feel their pain, and I'm just expressing it here at the table.
Yeah, the provider isn't allowed to go on private property and do their work. So that would be between the provider and the property owner. This just covers the public right of way that is
Yeah. Part
under the city's ownership
and easement through the private property.
And through this process, we have refined a lot on our right of way permitting and notification based on some of the issues we heard. And when All West comes in and they have to pull permits, if we approve this tonight, they have to pull permits. And we will sit down with them on pre-construction, go over all the requirements for notification, and we've beefed that up. It's an internal process that we beefed up. And we feel like this last round, we caught a lot of problems, and the company that's going through the city now, who's doing a majority of the city, is caught up and is following what they should. So there are always going to be outliers and problems. I'm not going to say they're not, and we've heard the residents, and we're trying to address those.
Great, thank you.
I just want to add that we have seen great improvement. Matt and I worked with someone that's doing a lot of work here right now. And there were incidents beforehand. The residents reached out, but what I did is I went out personally to their properties, took a look at their properties, and then called directly this company myself after I notified Matt and, you know, our city managers. And it just worked out great. They want to do the right thing. It's just sometimes the folks that they have working for them are just like everybody else. They may not follow policy. The biggest thing that we had was the recovery of the property to get it back to where it was before, and the notification issue. But I think that we've really come a long way through communication to be able to, for me, to bring some solace, and it really worked out well. But it's critical that we understand that we have to allow these folks here, but we also have to convey the message to the residents that, you know, if there is an issue, please contact us. That's our role. And
Well, I also went out to my constituents, so I appreciate that you did as well. And I also made phone calls, so I appreciate your experience. Yeah.
Mayor, if you have specific questions for All West, there
Do
you go.
any of the council have questions for this All West that's here?
I teased them on the way in. When are you getting to me? That's what I. The bumps in the road. When are you getting to me? So, you know, competition is good. That's helps our consumers with lower prices and it's healthy, but
You go to her before me, and we know there's favoritism. So just be careful. So, exactly. Not just
you guys. I think
Suzanne's first, that's okay. I'm okay with it.
I have a question that would track with this right now where we are, like,
Yeah.
is the access.
We're gonna let
You
them-
guys want to come up so you can get on the microphone?
Yeah.
We won't make you move that big old giant thing. No, my question, you know, we're not unique. We're not a unique municipality. We have areas that have not had access, not been able to get access for quite some time. What is your plan around some of these outlining areas where there may not be that infrastructure right now? And then part two of that is, how is your access constructed? How do you actually construct that access for our residents?
Yeah, questions. Really, when it does come down to access and deploying the network, we do
Sorry,
start.
can we get your name?
Oh,
for the
yeah,
record?
sorry.
So-
Brad Gonzalez with All West Fiber.
And I'm sure.
Nice to meet you.
We know you.
Perfect. We know that there are areas that could be a little more challenging, whether it's, well, usually related to terrain specifically. And so as we do a phased approach, and as we do a phased approach, we do look at and assess through different engineering methods on whether or not we can access everybody. There's going to be probably some outliers that might still not be able to have that full access, just due to the ability to get to them, whether again, it's terrain, that's a possibility. Our goal is to still hit all households possible within Cottonwood Heights, but I think the reality is there's going to be a plus or minus that's on there just because of that. And to answer your second question, it's a mix. So we're looking at aerial as well as underground. We don't do any micro trench or anything like that. We do boring and missile and stitch, as well as aerial, where we have the opportunity to do aerial.
Okay.
So that helps as well, because as we're building a network, that kind of drives some of the costs down, allows us to get to more consumers at that point in time as well. So having that mix is really one, it expedites the process, as well as brings the cost a little bit down.
And I have one more question.
Yeah.
And it has to do with innovation. Is your company researching the wireless potential for high-speed internet?
So actually my background is and as well as Adam's here, with All West, pretty extensive in the wireless side, but we're not looking at wireless, as an option. And specifically in the franchise, you guys actually have an ordinance against, any wireless aspect of it, but
we're waiting for technology.
Yeah.
to catch up, I guess.
But there's quite a bit that's out there in relation to wireless. Reliability is still not
Mhm.
quite there. I mean, they have millimeter that exists in a lot of mesh networks. It's actually pretty invasive as well in terms of deployment.
Mhm.
Been a part of several deployments in different states, in terms of Utah, Nevada, Idaho, and it's still not quite where it would need to be in order. I don't think it'll ever be at a point to fully replace something that's a hard line, if I'm being honest and giving my opinion, but it still serves a purpose in certain circumstances, especially the hard to reach customers or areas where terrain could be
Mhm.
a problem.
Great, that's very helpful, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions I can help?
I guess I have one with the change of our strips going from grass to, some people have pretty elaborate rocks with drip systems and things. Does
Yeah.
that make your work harder, or?
From personal experience, it can, but again, the method that we would use is we try and bore under, right? So if somebody has in the park strip, if it's grass, you have a small pit that you do open, and then you go under the ground, so you're able to actually avoid that landscape, and then any restoration for that pit is done that same day typically. And our goal is to, obviously, we blue stakes, everything to avoid any utilities, but we know and understand irrigation and sometimes water in terms of sprinklers is somewhat unavoidable. To be able to find that is near impossible at times. And so we contract services as well as do in-house repairs for anything. We'll do a walkthrough before and after within the neighborhood as well. So, yeah, but it can be a challenge for sure.
I think to add note to some of the concerns, right, is, you got a lot of companies that aren't based here out of Utah. Like, who do I call? Who's my point of contact? I think the unique thing and the cool thing about All West is we are a Utah company. We've been around Utah for over 100 years. We want to take care of our state, right? We all live and we all operate within these communities every single day. And we don't want to, mistreat our neighbors and our families, right? And so we are a Utah-based company that, I think we've got Utah's best interest in mind.
I think information is key to be able to help know and understand, get out there who we are. I mean, for dual purpose, we want, people to know All West is in Cottonwood Heights, but we also, for communication purposes, if there's issues, myself, I'd be partnered with the city as well as several individuals like Adam that we'd be working with consistently. So want to be able to make sure you guys have all our information.
Part of our permitting process is then updated, or what we do is we'll have them, once they get their plan and their permits approved, where they'll be working, that'll be posted on the website first and foremost. And then second, there's door hanger requirements. There's knocking on doors if you have to go in backyards and just things of that nature. But like Shane was saying, our permit does not allow access to private property. If they have to get there, they have to get owner's permission to actually tie the hard line into the house. That, once it leaves the right of way, that's That's where they're working in that area. And as a final, just, I know we want to wrap this up. I spoke to our other company who's in the city right now trying to get through, and believe it or not, they sang high praises of All West. They were like, that's great. We won, we like the competition, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but they actually sang quite a few praises of All West, and I mean, I'm not trying to sell one company over in the other, but just to help with the thoughts there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Welcome.
coming.
Welcome.
Okay, well, moving back, next is ordinance 461, amending the city code concerning bonding of officers. Does Jared or Shane want to add anything?
Shane, do you wanna?
HB 64 that was enacted by the legislature last session changed a requirement, a long time requirement for certain municipal officers, including the elected officials, to have bonds. I think they were $5,000 or $10,000 bonds, fidelity bonds, covering them, to instead a requirement for them to be covered by a crime insurance policy provided by the city. And the city council under that statute is to set the amount of coverage. And so the purpose of this ordinance is to amend our city code to get rid of that old bonding requirement, to now have the crime coverage requirement, and to set the bonding amount, which I think I put in there, it's $3 or $5 million. I have checked, and the city has a $5 million kind of blanket crimes coverage on its officers and employees. So the treasurer, city treasurer, does have a special bonding requirement, and that bond amount is set by the state group of treasurers. So that's a little bit different. The city council does not set that limit. That's set by the state, but our coverage amount is adequate.
Okay, thank you. Then the fifth is resolution 2026-01, ratifying the election by secret ballot of a mayor pro tempore that will occur later in this meeting, but we'll ratify in the business meeting. And next is resolution 2026-02, approving an agreement with Rocky Mountain Power for a public art project. Do you have anything?
Yeah, so this is just a continuation of the wrapping of the utility boxes. This is an agreement with Rocky Mountain Power to allow the Arts Council to continue that in some other locations. The specific locations in art have not been determined at this point, but we wanted to get this agreement in place so they can move forward with Rocky Mountain Power on it.
And the seventh is resolution 2026-03, amending a development agreement for Canyon Cove subdivision. Does Jared or Jim want to share anything?
Yeah, this was, this is to make official the amended landscape plan as part of the development agreement that was made with Ivory for the Canyon Cove subdivision. After meeting with residents and meeting with designers and different people on site and talking through, we understand this isn't perfect, but we think we came out with a better plan that had some pretty significant changes on it now. Because of all the changes we made, we added 5 additional trees, or relocated a bunch of trees to provide additional shade or better shade in areas where it should be. Kind of talked with you all about this last fall as they were starting the plant. And we just wanted to make this official, bring it in, get it as part of the amended development agreement, and get it in place. Since the development agreement specifically referred to the landscape plan, we wanted to bring it in. Typically in a subdivision process, you can make some minor changes to landscaping plans, but the number of changes that we made after all of this, I think we should probably bring it back and have it adopted and signed by Ivory as well.
I did not see the final landscape plan in the packet. Did I miss it? Because I have
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
3 versions. I know we're not voting on the first version in 2023. But thanks to Tony and Audrey Pines, I have 2 other landscape plans. One that was part of a recorded February 21, 2024 approved plan that I understand did not go before the ARC, the Planning Commission, or the council. And then I have 3rd that I don't even have a date on. So I need to know what we're voting on before we cast a vote.
So looks like that 3rd one, but let me pull it up. Or do you have it up, Jim?
I'm finding it, yeah.
So one thing I found when I was talking with Shane about this earlier is that actually the development agreement, so the one from 2024 was the relocation of just 2 trees. That was actually allowed in the development agreement and reading the language that,
The path is also different.
Oh, the path was different, you're
The
right.
path, the trees,
yeah. So some of those, typically in a subdivision process, those minor changes are allowed at an administrative level. After going through all that and making additional changes, we've made some significant changes now that I think we need to go over. I apologize, it's not in
I
there.
just emailed it to you.
Oh, okay.
So what will Ivory be held accountable to? The February 2024 plan that was approved and recorded? Or the new
Put it
plan?
up on the
Yeah,
screen,
well,
Jim.
Wait for it to come through.
And while you're bringing it up, Councilmember Burrell and Mayor Benyon, who was Mayor-elect Benyon, and I, so we were together appropriately with the Pines walked through. And there were some things that were approved on the Ivory plan that have not been installed yet, such as the benches, the handrail to the pavilion, a cutout in the asphalt that hasn't been taken care of. The pavilion is flooding. And then it looked like there were these 2 trees, so
And then there was also the 3 trees that were supposed to be
Yes.
staggered, that were all
Yes.
put in a continuous line. And
thank
by
you,
the
right.
way, our ARC chairman was there, our Architectural Review Committee chair was present, and he did verify that those 3 trees in a row. So I feel it was quite a insightful walk through the park.
It was, and so whatever we vote on tonight, I would like to also understand what we're going to hold Ivory accountable for, before the warranty expires. And if that's even started yet.
The warranty has not started. We haven't accepted the park yet.
Oh, hallelujah, thank you.
No,
We
there's
are-
there's still a lot.
All these things you mentioned are on the punch list items.
Okay,
Other than that, we have a whole lot of other things on the
Right.
list.
Okay. all right, I'm glad that we're aligned. Thank
But
you.
No, the warranty has not begun yet on the
Okay.
park.
Plan that should have been in was this one from,
Right, they're trying to reduce some of their bonding value with some of the things that have been done. Point is it's still a process.
Yeah, until we accept it, it doesn't start the warranty period. So they have to repeat, we still have a punch list that we're working through with them. And these items you mentioned are on the punch list. The flooding on the pavilion, we actually spoke with Mayor Benyon today. We're gonna go look at that and verify some things on there, but overall, the things you mentioned are on our list.
Is there any reason that we can't just, have this available to the public or at least to the council members to see the list so that we can, for efficiency's sake, all be kind of on the same page and,
to see the punch list.
yeah, to see what the expectations are that you've set with.
Well, the expectations are that they build to the plan set. The punch list is an internal administration thing so that we can, I mean, you're really getting into the weeds if we go down that and into the administration side of stuff. If we are asking you to look at the punch list and approve the punch list. Well,
I'm not asking for approval. I just think the more that we can be transparent and share things so that then they're, if it's confidential, just let me know. But if it's not confidential, I don't see why, because it has been a point of concern too.
And that's actually not even the problem I have. That is yet a 4th plan that is not any of the 3 that I have.
this is the one, when I spoke to you all last fall, this is what this is after meeting with Scott Peters on site and talking with Ivory, this was the plan that we had looked at and agreed to. So I apologize, it wasn't in the packet. I didn't realize it wasn't in there.
Well, what has been asked for, and I'll just bring it. The elephant in the room is the 2 trees that are just missing from this on the.
So
west
those
side.
2 trees, you're talking right here,
Yes,
that was what a previous employee met with Ivory, talked about relocating those. Those 2 trees are actually relocated here. These are not on the original approved plan. So they were relocated, which is
yes,
typically,
they are. In the 2024 recorded plan, those 2 trees are there.
but they're not down here on the 2024 plan.
No, they're not. You're right.
So on the original plan from the original development agreement, those 2 trees were located here. They were not taken out, they were relocated. As part of an administrative action, which usually is okay on a subdivision. Because this is a development agreement, it's a little gray, but when I'm reading through the development agreement again, there was a clause in there that talked about administrative minor changes that could be done by the Community Economic Development Department. So whether or not you agree that those are administrative or minor, I mean, that's.
Well,
Yeah, sure.
I'm actually not even gonna contest that. What I just really want to know is what we're voting on because, and I'll hand this to you. these trees here that are there, they're not on this plan. This is the recorded 2024.
Right, so there
They're
were.
not there.
There were three different, so the two plans that came in, so there was the development agreement in 2023, which was the approved, which was attached to the development agreement. This is the one that was part of the subdivision approval plat. And then and the issue is that there were changes from this, from the development agreement, so that's when I started discussions with residents and with Scott Peters, the art committee. And went through, and that's where we came up more with this plan, which of course isn't perfect by certain people's agreements, but it actually ended up putting 5 additional trees in the park, relocating several of the larger shade trees to be over the benches. And I think comes out as a better plan overall. So there are two approved, there's a plan from the 2023 development agreement, a plan that was approved in the subdivision process, which I think started this whole thing. And then what we talked with Ivory about and what I brought to you last fall in a really quick discussion, because they were getting ready to plant. We wanted to make sure that we were okay with what they were going to put in.
And I just sent that September 25th, 2025 plan to each of you. So you should have that available for future reference.
And I can print a copy off for each of you as well.
I'm not sure how to marry the two. There is a disconnect from what we're hearing as council members and from the public and maybe what we're talking about here. So I don't know the best mechanism to kind of bridge the two gaps and make sure that there's understanding. I think maybe it's a better understanding of the process with the residents. Maybe it's having further engagement. I'm not sure what the answer is, other than I sure hope that the people that live around there that are going to enjoy it are happy with it and feel like it's done to a proper standard. And I don't know, Jared, I guess maybe I'm asking you, what's the best way to bring everyone together to make sure that we can get to some happy.
So the hard part here is that the original complaint that I'd heard was that staff had made some decisions they shouldn't have made with the 2 trees. That's actually not true according to the development agreement, going through it again, reading through it and saying it depends on if you consider those minor or major changes. That's interpretive.
Okay.
And the path that was there as well.
Yeah, I read the 20.
So that,
I can understand where that could be fuzzy.
that decision was made in 24 when the plat was reported. When I started looking at it, they were already at a point where they were ready to plant. They were ordering landscape according to the 2024 plan. We asked them to plant 5 additional trees, make several changes. Now those 2 trees stayed where they were. Ivory was not willing to negotiate those. They would have gone back to the original plan and just scrapped it all and went back to 2023. That's when I came to each of you and talked with you individually about this, showed you the new plan, kind of said, this is what we worked out. Are you good with it? Because they were getting ready to plant. Because of the changes we've now made, to me, this is a significant change, but this is what they planted to in good faith.
Okay, so let me just summarize.
So,
So if we approve this, Ivory will be held accountable to this.
right,
If we still want those 2 additional trees that are on the park, and the Scott Peters kind of walked us through, not actually placing them where they were on these previous plans, but placing them in a way that kind of frames the mountain views for the residents that's right behind. We would have to do a budget amendment to approve those additional trees.
yeah, so once there's a couple of things, so once we actually take ownership of the park, which won't happen until they've met the expectations of this plan.
Okay.
Then we have a 1-year warranty period, where we cannot go in and do work in the park, otherwise we can be blamed for anything that goes wrong within that 1-year period.
Okay.
And after that, then you can allocate funds, and just like in any other park, we can make changes, we can make upgrades, we can do different things in the park, it's our park. If the council decides that that's a priority for them in the budgeting process, we can allocate funds to do additional things in this park.
Was there other reasons of moving the trees other than wanting to put more shade over benches? Is there any?
So
Yeah.
we added 5 additional trees. The 3 that were moved were these 3 larger ones down by the play area.
Down here?
There were smaller trees that were there originally, some little cherry trees. And it just made more sense, Scott and I talked about it, makes more sense to relocate and just move those trees throughout so that you have more shade over those benches. There was a tree placed, there's a new tree placed in front of the pine that's kind of half dead if you go out there and look at it by the pavilion to the north of the pavilion, so that tree will hopefully grow up and kind of block that visual a little bit. And then, a couple more trees at the north end were added, just some various things that, I mean, there's quite a bit of movement in the trees. To try to
But I
put them in
just-
a better spot.
I guess what I was asking, and I don't know the answer, is I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't the neighbors requested them for not to be there, and some wanted them there, some didn't want them there. You know, and so you may solve one issue and other people, I don't know, right? That's the
We're never
tricky
gonna
part.
make everybody happy.
That's the tricky part with stuff like this.
Okay, one more quick question. I know you have the punch list for Ivory. That when we walked through, I think there's been a claim that the damage to the pavilion columns in particular was there before Ivory started. But when I read the 23 agreement, I think it said that they had to provide evidence or they had to show us what was there before they started.
So,
Councilmember Burrell, do we have that?
yeah, they sent me photos and inspection report prior to their start of construction. Now, not prior to some of their scoping on the site. But prior to the actual start of construction and grading, which showed damage to the pavilion already.
So if it was done by them with the scoping, that would still be on them.
I don't have any way to prove that, though.
Well,
I don't have any
the,
evidence. of
the,
that.
the damage to the cement columns, so, you know, as if memory serves me, it's like a wooden column and at the base, it's cement. And when they had their big equipment in there, shortly after they started, I went over there. And it looked to me that it was fresh concrete that was chipping, had been bumped into and chipped off. So
But you
for
don't-
me, I'm a layman, but I remember thinking, boy, this looks like fresh damage. And then at that point, I don't know if I interacted with Mike Johnson, but it was like, well, if they have damaged things, they will be responsible. So the fact that maybe the pictures weren't taken of each of the columns, I don't know what evidence we have.
Honestly, though, with that pavilion, there's probably $15,000 to $20,000 of work that we need to do on it anyway, and that's a minor cost in comparison to everything else we need to
Okay.
do with that
We
pavilion.
mentioned the roof and some other things.
Roof needs to be replaced, painting needs to be done. We gotta look at drainage at this point, because if they built the plans, then they built according to what we said, and we're gonna be responsible to fix that. But there's additional work, and honestly, those columns, that'll be an easy fix for us while we're doing everything else.
Okay.
I don't know that it's worth the argument, we can go and push, but they provided me the inspection report from before they started actual construction.
Any other questions?
Well, I think it's the two trees.
And the-
Whether, if we prove it tonight, then we're, I think, saying to these residents that we would have to go back and vote to do these, and these might be put in line with all the other parks, trails, and open space requests. So I'm not sure what we should do.
But those two trees, from what I understand, were not part.
So the original approval had these two trees here, down over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're thinking that that is the fixable action item to make folks happy.
But not Ivory, it sounds like.
Well, we would pay for them ourselves. That's not.
After the warranty period, we could put them in.
Okay,
Or we could ask Ivory to do it now. But we would still pay. Either way,
That's
we're going to pay, yes.
If they're willing to warranty those.
If they're willing to warranty, we can ask them to do it. Ivory's happy to do it at
We'll
this
just pay
point,
for them at this point.
if we're paying.
I'm good with that.
If they're relatively nubile trees, are we just talking hundreds of dollars? I mean, what kind of
A couple
expenditure
of $1,000s.
for two trees?
Well, planting and they're gonna add their overhead, they're gonna add all of those things, and if there's a sprinkler system there, they may have to put in a new drip system for the trees, so I don't know without going out there. You're a couple of thousand at a minimum.
Would it
Per-
be cheaper if we wait and do it ourselves in a couple of years?
I don't know if it would be, or honestly, I mean, I don't know if it would be. No, it's gonna be more expensive if we wait a couple of years just from costs going up. But
If there's other things you want to do in the park at that
Right.
time.
are there other things? Yeah, so we would have to go out and with Ivory and make sure that there's adequate watering for particular trees, not just the lawn watering. And if that may have to be adjusted, and there's a few $100s doing that. And then the trees, you're looking at about $400 or $500 a tree. And then the overhead costs and the planting. So like I said, I mean, I'm taking a wild guess, so please don't etch it in stone. We're starting at about 2,000 in my estimation.
And we've already committed to pay for the additional 5 trees that they put in. That was 5 above and beyond the original 5.
Make it 7 trees, move on.
7?
And with the additional 2, then.
So when we motion this tonight, we motion to approve with the amendment of the 2
It's up to
trees.
you.
With
Well,
the advice of Scott Peters, who was
Well,
very,
if I may,
Yes.
one of the issues we're running into here tonight, and we've talked about the 3 trees, the 3 pines that are on the north. How, as you look at the picture, they do have this kind of a look to it, right? You know, they are out there, they're in a straight line. I mean, we're talking a couple of feet here, but if you're approving these 2 trees tonight on this plan, where do you want those trees?
Scott Peters would be the one to.
But it has to
identify
be on the plan. If we're adopting a plan, right now you're adopting a blank slate. Now, if you want us to go out and locate them, that's fine. But do you see what I'm saying? I mean, we're talking inches and feet here and
And my concern is, this came through with a lot of discussions with Ivory as well. I can't tell you whether or not they're gonna be willing to plant them.
No, I
Maybe
should
it's-
say that. If
maybe
we pay
it's
the money.
We can go and ask them. If they're not willing to, then we plant them after the 1-year warranty. They're not. willing to
Yeah, I
plant
guess I
them.
should say, it. They may not be happy to. They may
That's my
really
other
jack the
concern.
price up to be really happy to do it.
Right.
And I'm not begrudging Ivory at all. They're a business and they're gonna,
We pushed them pretty hard on this
Yeah.
already.
okay, so are
We
we
can
back
solve,
to?
this is a
we-
solvable
We
problem.
can solve this after the fact with a commitment to add 2 trees.
Yeah,
like-
if you wanna-
So let's, I'm good proving moving forward, if we can get a commitment from Jared and Matt, that we'll figure out the best way to get those 2 trees in. If that's with Ivory, if that's with us,
or after.
we'll figure it out.
Or after?
And if we have to do a budget amendment, I think, sounds like there's no opposition for the cost of these 2 trees. So I think we're good. I think we're good.
Approve this, so we get everything we want here, which is good. This is good.
Yeah.
And it's better with a couple of trees.
And I think staff knows that that's the intent and we'll make
And
it
you want
happen.
us to work with the ARC chairman on the type of tree and the location of those trees,
I'm comfortable with that.
correct?
Yes, I think so.
All right, that's what I need.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do that.
I think we're good.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the 8th on our business agenda is resolution 2026-04 approving an interlocal agreement with Sandy for a joint crosswalk study. And does Jared or Matt have more information about that?
Yeah, it's gonna give it to them.
He's gonna sing it for us.
Good.
I'll let Ben come up and I'll be here to back him up. I'm his doo-wop band.
It'll also include interpretive dance.
Ready.
Emily.
Please don't. No, Mayor and Council. So this is licensed. So this is an interlocal agreement with Sandy City to look at a crosswalk safety study for all of Creek Road, so from 3,500 east to Union Park. Kind of the motivation for this is there are currently 9 crosswalks that we have on Creek Road, that some of which we share with Sandy. They are often getting complaints and concerns about the safety of those crosswalks or addition of new crosswalks. We are often getting complaints and concerns about the safety of the crosswalks and or addition of new crosswalks. And so this study will, this agreement will allow Sandy to execute this study with us as a co-participant to study the safety of the crosswalks that are existing now, as well as the potential for additional crosswalks to be placed in the future.
I also get frequent requests for one that is near me where there's a school bus stop. So I read the agreement. What I like about it is that we are able to, as Cottonwood Heights, have certain members on the committee, the citizen committee, right? Sandy has half, we have half. So I like that part of it. is this also going to study the current crosswalks and whether they're in still a good location? Would it be involve some removal of crosswalks?
Depending on what we find there is potential that we could determine that some of those crosswalks are not
Relocated.
safe or need to be relocated.
Any of those crosswalks that are on Creek Road right now are what we would deem legal, if you will. There's no ramps to them. A lot of them were painted by church groups that as a goodwill gesture, that go nowhere. So they would be, some would be removed or upgraded or replaced.
Okay.
Well, you know, my statement in regard to this is, while I am thrilled, nobody wants safe crosswalks more than me. And so I'm all for the study. I also want to bear out a few things. I think we need to respect the hard work that residents along Creek Road have done over the last 4 and 5 years to gather petitions where they feel that there are unsafe conditions. Two that I know of right off the top of my head. One is at the top of Pepper Hill and the other one is at Danish and Creek Road. And so I want to know that these citizen petitions are going to be taken into account in the study. And also just a reminder that where pedestrians have either been struck or killed in the last, I'll say 6 years, has been in crosswalks, with I think the exception of one that I know of. So I'm not in favor of a crosswalk study because I read through everything that I was given here and I don't, it doesn't necessarily say that we're going to use the safe systems approach. If I knew that we were using our CSAP that we already have in Cottonwood Heights, that would bring me a lot of comfort. So maybe could you speak to whether the CSAP and those principles from the safe systems approach will be used? And also, will the petitions that have already been filed with the city be recognized?
What would I say about this?
To answer your first question, yes. Part of the SOQ that went out was using, you know, an existing one of the bases of this is trying to find funding is based on the Wasatch Front CSAP. That's kind of the basis of this. And also Sandy is part of that.
I don't think they adopted it. They didn't go after SS4A.
No,
funding.
they're this is not SS4A. This is part of, Sandy was part of the Wasatch CSAP project. They were sat on the board and had that, so they were part of it. So we are going forward based on those principles, and part of the SOQ has those principles in it. So we are addressing that. We have not opened the proposals yet. We actually just got those today. That we will be reviewing along with Sandy and working through and finding a consultant for this. We'll follow that process. Now, as far as the petitions, they certainly will be taken into account. I'm not sure though that I've only seen one. Well, I'm not even sure it was a petition, so I'm not sure where those are. But we have locations where we have a lot of requests. And we'll investigate those along with this process, but we will also investigate it based on data. It'll be data driven, and we'll come up with the best locations based on the data and the engineering that comes along with that.
Well,
That will be based on the types of crosswalks we might put in, for instance, different types of crosswalk dressings, if you will. Whether they could be raised, they could be islands, they could be stripes, they could be signs, we don't know. That's part of this study, to give us that template. Once that's done, then it's up to the councils on both sides of the street to adopt that. And then once it's adopted, then it's up to the councils to decide how, if they want to budget for it and move forward with it. This is just to get us the study and get us the locations based on the data, and let our councils choose how they want to move this.
maybe I misunderstood, but did Councilmember Highland, did you say that you saw something about a citizen, some kind of citizen committee related to this project, or did I misunderstand what you
Yes,
just
so
stated?
in what I read is that there will be a citizen committee and half will come from Cottonwood Heights and half from Sandy.
I don't think it's
believe
citizens, I think it's staff. It's all staff.
So basically, our staff and Sandy's staff have
It's not
Should be
citizen.
citizens, okay.
Well, this part is selecting, I'm sorry, this part is selecting the consultant. To do the study. Now, if y'all would like to have a resident from the city sit on that, we have the ability to have people on there that we want to have, and we're happy to invite somebody. If you'd like us to invite, who the. gosh,
Either Zach Geiger or Brad Buswell. I think it should be someone from the subcommittee on active transportation. That committee was codified and has been in existence for nearly 2 years.
Well, I'll let the council, if y'all would like, we can have somebody to sit in with us and help with the review on the study, on the selection. At that point, though, once we make the selection, we'll go into the design, and I think, I know at that point, we'll have the ability to we can run the design and the ideas through the subcommittees, if you'd like, to have that discussion, so that they have their eyes on it.
That'd be
And
wonderful. I think foundationally.
Through the design process, if you will. The selection is not, it's very important, but it's the design itself and locations and types of crossings is, I think where y'all want to put the meat of your opinions, if you will.
Well, again, the safe systems approach is based on slowing vehicles down before the pinch point or the danger area. So that needs to be foundational. And whether there's 9 or 12 crosswalks, if we don't slow the vehicles down so that they aren't traveling more than 30 miles an hour. If we can't slow them down to traveling, then we shouldn't be putting crosswalks in, because I just can't overemphasize this. The women that have been killed in our crosswalks, a 7-year-old boy was struck, it goes on and on. They are in the crosswalks when they are struck. So I'm going to be emphatic. Thank you. I don't mean to overstate it. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
So we're talking a couple $1,000 is what I heard.
1,000?
You said, to commit to this, you said 1,300 or?
No, this is gonna be, we have the funds in engineering, consulting in our budget. We don't know yet what the price, it's gonna be over, I don't know yet, I'm not gonna throw a number out. But we have our estimate where we can cover that.
Ballpark.
Say our portion is gonna be upwards of 15 to 20.
This is the study, not the actual construction.
This is the study and the locations and the types, and it is not anything outside of that.
So $15,000 to $20,000 for just Creek Road, where we have been talking about a comprehensive citywide safety action plan that would be 50,000. That would address all of these challenges.
Not necessarily. This study has the specificity that it would not appear in a CSAP.
And we need to do it with Sandy, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's an
Yes.
interlocal.
If we own both sides of the road, this would be
Good point. Okay.
a different scenery altogether. And to your point, Councilmember Burrell, while I agree, and I'm never gonna disagree with slowing cars down, and it does make it safer. We have a neighbor who we have to work with them as well as far as what types of treatments we would be putting in. So we will work very closely and we will take that approach on these things and do our best and fight for everything we think is right.
Thank you.
I'm still learning, is Brad Buswell a citizen or an employee?
He is a citizen on the subcommittee within Parks, Trails and Open Space.
And Zach Geiger as well?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And so you would have one of them? be-
I would prefer they would be part of the review of the study itself
Okay.
to help. That's where, like I said, the crux of this whole thing will lie.
Well, the problem is if we don't have the conversations foundationally, once it is presented, I disagree with that, but I may not have a council majority who supports me in that view. I don't know.
Whatever the level of involvement is, I think it'd be a great thing for it to be in an item that they can discuss at PTOS, and then they can obviously have someone from that subcommittee. And then I think it'd be great for that individual, whoever it is, to report back to PTOS. And these are good things to just keep them involved and engaged. So,
We would intend to keep that group going,
Yeah.
involved in this process.
so we'll make sure that's on the next agenda. Matt, you just let us know on timing, how you want to work that out, okay?
we will probably be back to you sometime in February. Well, probably the second meeting in February with
Okay.
the final choice, and we'll work through that.
All right, moving along. Okay, thank you. This is an important discussion. Next is resolution 2026-05, approving an interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County for aerial imaging. And Jared, will you please
Yeah.
help us understand?
This is our annual imaging contract with Salt Lake. We just did the aerial imagery for our GIS and other items that Jim has more to add. I think it's like $1,200 for the whole city.
Yeah, and I think it's every other year we
Every
do
other
that.
year,
And we're in the process right now of upgrading the servers here at City Hall. So after we do that, we'll have the capacity to purchase our own imagery and not have to go through Salt Lake County in the future, if that's what we want to do.
That makes sense.
But right now, this is how we've done it over the last few years.
Any questions? No. Okay, and the final action item is resolution 2026-06, approving an appointment to the Arts Council.
Yeah, so we had Lucas Manning come in and interview for this. He has been involved as a professional dance teacher, theater director, some other things, and he's I think I don't think he's here, right? He's an IT data solutions analyst actually by trade, but involved in the arts for quite a while and has a great energy. So we'd like to recommend him. He's in District 1, so that'll put 3 from District 1 onto the Arts Council.
Okay,
So we want to get back to our regular, but we did not discuss in item 6.1, adopting the annual meeting schedule. Last year, we decided not to meet on election day in November. Is that, since I haven't seen the actual meeting schedule, is that still the case? Are we meeting in November?
Because it's not a local election, I think we've gone down the path of meeting that day. Do you want to? It's up to you.
I've always just thought it'd be kind of odd that we even meet on election day. I think it is one of those unique days where I'm not, you're expecting people to come to council meetings, voting on things, and it's on a day that's conflicting with elections. I definitely think on municipal years, you should never do that, but I don't know what do other people think.
No, I think it really worked out well not being here on that day. There's just too much going on.
That's what my
Not
gut
just
tells
here, but
me.
everywhere.
So
Yeah.
we'll make that change in your motion, then
Okay.
we can, yeah, I'm good either way.
I think it's important.
The direction from the
I think
previous
it's
mayor.
better, like what we did last year was we noticed it that we were not having one, and we decided if we really need it, we would then notice to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
an additional meeting.
yeah.
I think that worked great.
okay. Okay, under the consent calendar, we'll also be considering approval of the minutes of the December 16th council meetings. Okay, then we're pleased to welcome to our meeting, John Stasinos of the Utah Open Lands, who will be reporting on the Transit to Trails program. So we'd like to invite Josh up here.
I've also brought Wendy Fisher with us.
Good.
She's our executive director.
Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And-
Josh told me he was going to present at Cottonwood Heights and I said, without me? And he said, I guess not. So I'm the executive director of Utah Open Lands. Josh Stasinos is our community engagement director and director of storytelling. So we're going to tell you a little bit of a story tonight, but how many of you are familiar with Utah Open Lands just off the bat? Okay, I think I've seen most of you before. We are a nonprofit public charity, 501c3 land trust. So everything we do is based on our mission, which is preserving land for recreational values, open space values. We work with farmers and ranchers, wildlife habitat. There are a number of conservation values that we protect on the various different properties that we have either purchased or put under conservation easement. And one of those properties is Bonanza Flat. How many people have hiked to Bloods Lake up at the top of Bonanza?
I have not.
Wait, what? We need to get you up there, Ellen. That's,
Well, there's other places I love, but I just haven't, I need to do it.
so in 2017, there was about 1,341 acres of land that was slated for and actually had approvals for 260 units of development, gated subdivision. The entire 1,341 acres was going to be developed. Utah Open Lands, working with Park City, basically ran a $13 million campaign. We had lots of contributions from various different communities. Salt Lake County provided some funding, which I think also represented many of the cities in Salt Lake County. And at the end of the day, we were successful in working with Park City and purchasing that property. The Park City community actually put a $25 million bond on the ballot to acquire Bonanza Flat. And so this piece of property is a piece that has been just absolutely beloved by the community. It actually, from our perspective, we know how much we love our canyons and we love recreating in our canyons, almost to the detriment sometimes of our canyons. And Bonanza actually is one of those places that we feel helps to alleviate some of the pressure actually in Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon, because there's some additional land that people can recreate on. In fact, we increased the amount of acreage in Bonanza Flat from 1,341 acres to a total of 1,500 acres that's been protected. There are several trails up there, but the ones that people love the most are the Bloods Lake Trail, the trail to Lackawaxen, and I am sure soon they will love the Bonanza Loop Trail, which Josh has been out on many times, and I think already it's a favorite for mountain bikers. Why we're here today is to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges and the struggles that we're facing on Bonanza Flat that we think we're facing in all of our canyons. And quite frankly, I feel like we've done a pilot project in Park City that's been really pretty successful, and we'd like to replicate that basically on the Wasatch Front. But in order to do that, we need the help of various different communities along the Wasatch Front. So we know that Bonanza Flat is a popular hiking and biking destination. We also know, and it was kind of planned this way, that there is limited parking. What we did when we put in place how we wanted to manage Bonanza Flat was we actually counted how many people were coming up there on a regular basis. And then we made enough parking spaces for that. But once Wasatch County had paved the road over Guardsman Pass, it became much more accessible. And then beyond that, once it was protected, people realized that they were no longer trespassing and they could actually go up there and be on Bonanza and enjoy it. And so one of the things that we've been looking at is how do we alleviate some of the pressures? So if we go to the next slide. I don't know who's controlling. Am I supposed to be controlling this? Okay.
It takes a minute to catch up.
Okay, that's great. I just wasn't sure.
You want me to
I was
play
like,
that?
wait a minute, maybe I'm supposed to do
Yeah,
this.
you can play it.
Yeah, so go back and
Go back,
play that video.
yeah.
So in 2019, here was one of the issues that we were struggling with. This is basically coming down from Guardsman. And as you can see, there is just a line of traffic that has parked on the side of the road. You've got people walking down to the actual trailhead location. I think anybody watching this video can see this is not a really safe situation. I would turn to the officers here. And I think one of the things that we even saw, it was during Labor Day, actually in 2019, that people parked so close that an emergency vehicle could not get down the road. So we knew that something had to happen. This actually is in Wasatch County proper, owned by Park City. So we actually were able to work through parking enforcement. And as we've done parking enforcement, I think you get the picture. Let's go to the next slide. This is what it looks like basically in 2025. And this was during prime leaf peeping, which is not really a great word to say, but that's what everybody calls it. But the leaf peeping up in Bonanza was absolutely stunning with all of the aspen trees. And you can see maybe the driver here was going a little too fast, but
And you can also see the purple line, which is the transit to trails system we worked out with Park City.
Yep. And that's part of what we realized in this pilot program with Transit to Trails is that we started very small. We had this idea of a concierge shuttle service to get people out of their cars and onto the bus, going to a specific destination. They got to make their reservations. They knew how long they were going to be there. The shuttle drivers were great, took care of it. And what has happened is that Transit to Trails program, as Josh just said, has blossomed into a transit program in Park City. Whether that's something we end up seeing here on the Wasatch Front, we do think that once people get used to this idea that you could take a shuttle or you could take a bus up there, that it actually can be really something that solves a lot of these parking issues. So if you go to the next slide. One of the things that we know through I'll just be honest, cell phone data, is that we do have a high percentage of folks that are coming from the Salt Lake Valley. You've got people from Salt Lake City, from Sandy, from West Jordan. Certainly, we have people from out of state. As you all know, one of the things that's kept Utah's economy buoyed is basically the fact that we have some beautiful places here in the state of Utah that people love to come and visit.
May I just ask clarification? Are these percentages of coming strictly to Blood Lake area?
Yes.
So to the Bonanza Flat.
Because I remember when you gave this presentation 18 months ago or whenever it was, and I was like, but how many people would come from Salt Lake to go over the mountain and hike on the other side? You're like, Ellen, you'd be surprised. So things have really, that's to me amazing. And that doesn't even count Sandy.
Yeah.
If you count Sandy, West Jordan,
Yep.
I mean, that's amazing. how many
Yeah,
come.
I mean, Park City is rated a gold class mountain bike place. And was the first to be awarded that by a mountain biking association. And it truly is one of those things that sets us apart. I personally, out of the love of mountain biking, was on Bonanza probably 7 times mountain biking this summer. And I live in Sugar House. So for me, it's a big travel. Like, I mean, I can either go through Park City, over Park City to Bonanza, or I can go all the way over Guardsman Pass, and it's a heck of a journey.
Yeah.
But people make that journey, and as you can see,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. This is specific to Bloods Lake. These are people that parked in either the Bloods Lake trailhead or they parked in the Bonanza Flat trailhead. And so what we're looking at is really starting to participate in the solution from the Wasatch Front side of things. Because the Purple Line is a free line that is provided in Park City that I believe during peak times it runs every 15 minutes.
Right.
And so they've really seen huge successes. In fact, and this is a point that I think some people have a little bit of an issue with, but because Park City residents are spending money on the bond, they have been actually issued a parking pass, because now up Bonanza Flat, Bloods Lake, and Bonanza Flat Trailhead are paid parking. But the residents are able to apply for a pass, and they don't have to pay. Well, believe it or not, we're giving a presentation on Thursday. I've just gone through all the stats from Park City Transit. And even though they have a free parking pass to go up and park at Bonanza, the Purple Line Transit is so convenient that they have found people are not using their free parking passes.
Can I ask this quick question?
Yeah.
When it says Texas and Florida, are they likely lodging in Park City? They're here from Texas, they're staying in hotels in Park City? When it says Arizona, Florida.
Yeah,
Texas.
most likely.
So that would mean that it's, let's say another 8%. Coming
Our
from Park
tourists,
City, but
yeah.
they would say.
I don't know that they're coming from Park City. In fact, if you look at the duration of time, and we didn't bring all of the statistics because I
Yeah.
know we have a short amount of time to present, but we have all sorts of statistics. The average person, especially during the leaf peeping session up there at Bonanza, they stay a total of 30 minutes, and they're not staying up in Park City, and they may be from another state, but they actually have come to Salt Lake City, or they've come to Cottonwood Heights for some other reason, and they're actually driving up there, parking on the side of the road. They're wanting to go up there and explore this. So it's not necessarily that those are people from staying in Park City. These are tourists in general that are coming up to this area.
Yeah.
In fact, it may be people that go and the Willow Heights trailhead is all blocked and they just keep driving up and then they see, so you don't know. But we want to acknowledge that, yeah, part of this is a service for the tourists that come here, the clean industry that we all appreciate coming to the state of Utah. Next slide. So what we're proposing, and it's based on what we've seen work in our Transit to Trails program that we piloted with Park City. And that is between July 4th and September 30th, which is really the prime time when it starts to get hot here in the valley and people are seeking places where they can cool off and they can, go and enjoy recreation. Sometimes there's an inversion and they want to get up in the mountains. So our vision is that between July 4th and September 30th, we would provide this free reservation-based shuttle service. Again, very much what we've done before. The vehicles would basically be 2 vans and they would have bike capacity. We are not going to suggest that this also have the ability to have people take their dogs, because Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood are watershed areas, even though you're on the other side. And it would depart we feel the best, most central location is from Cottonwood Heights. So that's one of the other reasons that we're coming to here, not just for a request of some funding to help us match what we already have in funding, but also because we think this is probably kind of one of the best locations. Again, this would be when there's a prime time season up there. A lot of the trails close down October 1st for wildlife considerations. Wildlife are getting ready for winter. You have the rut season, all of those sorts of things. We've shut most of those trails down, starting October 1st. So next slide. So we've talked to a shuttle service. Basically, the cost is about $75,000. Utah Open Lands is going to cover up to 50% of that $75,000 through contributions. We have also asked for some support from the shuttle company, and because we're a nonprofit organization, they're willing to make a contribution as well. But the remaining amount needs to come from partner cities and potentially other funding. We are certainly willing to look at the Central Wasatch Commission. We did receive actually funding a couple of years ago from the Central Wasatch Commission. I believe it was $10,000 for this program. We believe we could potentially get that money again, but they really want to know, are there other cities participating? And so that's why we're coming to Cottonwood Heights. And so we're asking for you guys to consider basically the park and ride or the meeting location where people would catch the shuttle. We would know who they were because they would make a reservation. So we would know on any given basis how many people were going to be there on a given day. And then we are asking for a $10,000 contribution. We feel that we're going to be making a presentation to Sandy. I believe it's on January 20th. And then we're also going to be making a presentation to Salt Lake County. We will probably also be making a presentation to Brighton, although I'm not sure Brighton is as interested if we're not including Willow Heights. And we did talk to Mill Creek, and this year, because of some other priorities they are not going to be able to participate. But we feel that this is going to alleviate some traffic. But in addition to that, we also feel like this sets up a greater equality for people who want to get up there, but don't necessarily have the ability or want to pay for the paid parking that's going to be up there. And so we've actually had a number of people, a whole group of hikers, actually out of the University of Utah, who are very interested in this shuttle program moving forward because they think they would avail themselves of it. So we think this is a great pilot program. Whether or not this becomes something that eventually something like UTA might get engaged in, similar to the way that Park City has started to run their transit. I can tell you, you can call anybody in Park City, even the Park City Council, and they will tell you that the Transit Trails pilot program and how it has blossomed into now something that they run as a transit entity is hugely and wildly successful, and it reduces carbon emissions. And as Josh has said, I should have let you do this part of the presentation, but he's like, every time you go up there, the people that get off the shuttle are happy and joyous, and the people that are parking are grumpy.
It's true.
So we think this is great. This is basically our ask. Utah Open Lands is coming up with, again, 50% of the funding. That's how much we believe in this program, and that's how much we think this is going to be something that people are really going to be enjoying. We'd love to find ways to partner with you guys to get the word out if we're able to do this shuttle system, but we'd like you to consider this as something that we think really will benefit all of your residents as well.
I mean, as a free service, it's really a concierge service for citizens to go, like, I'm going to spend my Saturday or my Sunday, I'm going to go spend a chunk of time in a place that I don't normally go, and I don't have to worry about driving up there, and I don't have to worry about parking up there, and I just get to go up there and hike or bike or wander around with my family and have a good time.
And to that end, it's also going to reduce, traffic coming up Big and Little Cottonwood or Big Cottonwood Canyon from people who are taking single driver vehicles going all the way up to Guards.
Since there's already, as we all know, a large parking lot at 6200 South, that's actually, I believe, located in Holiday, the very southeastern tip of Holiday.
Okay.
I don't think 6200 South Park and Ride is located in the city of Cottonwood Heights.
Okay.
But since, that sits all but empty in the non-ski season.
Okay.
It seems to me that I wonder, what comes to mind is we're always trying to think of how to drive more people to patronize our restaurants and that sort of thing. But the tricky thing is that parking per se has no value to our city. We don't want to increase parking lots and parking stalls. So when we look at this, at least that my first thought to put on the table is since there's already that immense asphalt and parking spaces at 6200 South, which would be right off the I-215. Because another consideration that a lot of our residents have is, do we really want to accelerate more cars driving through, Cottonwood Heights per se? That's already a challenge that we have.
Okay.
So, I don't know what everybody else's reaction is, my council colleagues, but it does, when I think about what you're trying to accomplish, you have a lot of people come from West Jordan and Sandy, so they would likely not necessarily want to drive all the way to the edge of Holiday and Cottonwood Heights. I mean, trying to come up with a location that makes sense for what the data that you've collected on where your interest is.
We're more than happy to talk to Holiday about it.
Or consider a spot that you think is advantageous for Cottonwood Heights and a good gathering spot. Like that's a spot that I think is very flexible and up in the air.
So is this one shuttle a day? going
So
up, or how-
essentially 2 shuttles, so the first one leaves, gets to the top. And however much time it takes to get back down, the next shuttle is going up, so you have 2 that are basically going back up and forth. It's probably gonna take about 45 minutes, but let's say traffic is heavier. I think we were considering an hour and a half full return trip. Doing that, is that what we were saying? Hour and a half?
Yeah.
And then the shuttle would start, we'd pick a start time, say 8 AM, and then we would go till 3 in the afternoon or something like that.
You'd have 45-minute headways, probably.
Yeah.
And so would that be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or just Saturday, Sunday?
I think for the pilot season, Saturday and Sunday is what we would start, and then, next year, we look at the data of how well everything went this year, how many people used it, and go from there. Decide how valuable it is to everybody who used it.
So it could be a lot of cars, and I just wonder, the one at 6200, that in Holiday is that a UTA stop? That they would want it more for their bus service, but they don't have any bus service really during that season.
I mean, if we went and surveyed how many cars were using it, like commuters parking there to get
Sure.
on a bus to go to the University of Utah or whatever kind of work commute they have, it's minuscule. The only time it tops out is on the peak winter ski
Right.
season days.
Yeah, I mean, and at the most, you're talking a trip each way, so that's 14 people. Each way is 28, so if every single person drove individually, we're talking about maybe 28 cars parking at one time.
Okay.
And again, it's a pilot program, so we can expand it if it's successful. And certainly if we need to communicate with UTA, we can easily communicate with UTA on, getting permits and that sort of thing. We feel like generally, when you look at people coming, we've got, again, a lot of people from Sandy. Before the paid parking, I would say there was an even greater amount of people coming from Sandy. So we're trying to find kind of a central location. Certainly, we're open to looking at some of these different locations, and any permitting or anything that we would need to do. That's why we're asking you now, because we have until, July 4th to get this moving.
So you're trying for this year, so
Yes,
it would be on this year's budget.
Yes.
So I asked Scott Jerkis to be thinking about our budget. We are in a very tight year, so.
Okay.
We'll let him, do you have any things to share? Do any council members have any things?
I mean, the only real thing I have is it's not budgeted, so it would take an adjustment to the budget in order to be able to do it. And that, so it's just something that you need to be cognizant of, in our current downward trajectory in our general fund balance of, where you go, because this puts more pressure on. Even though you might think, 10,000 is not that much in comparison to the whole budget. But this is not the only 10,000 that we've done, or considered throughout the year, and you need to keep considering that because it adds up over time. And so, but ultimately, you have to choose to fund whatever it is we choose to fund. So.
I think a $10,000 contribution should support some business activity as well. Personal opinion.
I'm sorry.
That should support some business activity as well. But when you said that it encourages people to come to Cottonwood Heights and to visit our restaurants, so we get sales tax revenue. So, having it on the edge there, I don't know, I just need to think through it. I haven't really thought about it in advance where we might be.
Public stalls are agreed to in Cameron Center. We already
Canyon
have-
Center,
Not really great access, but we already have that agreement with them
Yeah.
for Canyon
Yeah.
access.
oh, and that
That's
stacked
good.
parking.
Yeah, in the parking garage.
Well, and what came up for me is I'm thinking chambers of commerce, you know, there's the South Valley Chamber, there, you know, we're as Councilmember Highland, we're always trying to figure out how to help our local businesses be patronized. And so maybe, you know, if we were to find out whether, you know, we have Saola, we have the, what's the name of the, Eight Settlers,
Right.
you know, there's a few things there. It's not a rope, you know,
Yeah, is Sala still open over there?
Sala's still
Yeah.
open, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, consider this, if I go up there and I go mountain biking for 3-4 hours, there's no services up there. So by the time I get back, I've eaten my nutrition bar, I've exhausted whatever beverages I brought with me. I'm gonna
And
be
I
hungry.
feel like I've expended the
And I've spent the
calories.
You
calories.
should treat
If you
yourself.
got a restaurant that's like right where I'm parking, like that's gonna be something that people are
I
gonna
think there's
consider.
potential
So
there, I think.
I
you
do
know,
think that's a strategic thought that we should look at.
looking at our residents, or if you're from Salt Lake, if you look at those percentages brought up earlier, those percentages are going home. And I think you would get potentially the tourists. So I'm not sure what that breakdown would be,
Sure.
but you know, there would be an impact. What that level looks like, I don't know.
Depends on how hungry you are.
I'm hungry right
You're gonna
now.
make it home.
Okay. Any other council?
When is what is your kind of your dead, I'm sure you'd love us to make a decision on the spot, but what kind of time frame are you working? Do you need an answer? Because I think I'm hearing that we want to contemplate this.
Yeah, and that's why we started early. Of course, you know, first rule of fundraising, get the money before you leave the table, but, yeah, no, we have time. Excuse me, I think, you know, there's also a possibility that potentially, you know, as much as I hate to do this and Josh might kick me under the table, but you know, you could say, yeah, we would consider up to 10,000. We'd like to see what other community is gonna step up to the plate. You know, maybe we've got to get more money from Holiday and some of the others. I mean, our ask, we were looking at who we think is gonna benefit from this. Obviously, you're a close location to Big Cottonwood, so there is some residual potential business element. Obviously, there are people coming from Salt Lake City. And obviously there are people coming from Sandy. So those are kind of our big hits. And if we're putting in, you know, 50%, we've got to get at least 4 to 5 other communities. But yeah, it's another thing that you could look at is, you know, come back to us in a couple of months and let us know. But we would like to at least have some sort of sense that this is something that you are in support of, or if you're not, what do we need? What is the magic element there? What don't you like about it?
I like it. I have been up to Bloods Lake. And I'm glad to see that you've gotten the parking so much better with the reservation system and with the transit from the other side. I am wary of our budget, that we are in a tough year. That's my concern.
And, you know, I'm grateful that you're talking to CWC. I'm still very frustrated with them. They have a symposium coming up January 8th and 9th. And there's not a single transportation agenda item with Cottonwood Canyons.
Yep.
And I think that's a big miss on their part. So I would like to see their participation in this for sure.
So
If we're
I
going to
think,
continue to fund them.
sorry, Suzanne.
No, please, I just needed to put that extra in. If we're going to fund them, we need something back for what we're funding at CWC.
You know, there's a reason why the canyons are not in our city. There is a level of government that it has jurisdiction over it. In my opinion, I think it's super important as we look at those statistics. You've got Draper, you've got West Jordan, you've got Salt Lake City. I mean, I think if there's any level of government that is going to or should do something, that it probably should be the county. I also do think that, you know, even if the county does pay for it, I do think it adds additional burden. I think of our police department, there's no question that it adds an additional, you know, layer of policing, or if there's theft or burglary or break-ins or anything, you add that. There would be an impact on us regardless of what happens, good, bad, I don't know what that mix looks like. But in my mind, I'd have to beg the question of where the best possible level of funding should come from. And frankly, it's the county. And I know that they're having, you know, some budget issues, and they raised property tax, not to the level that maybe was initially introduced, but that's what we're all facing. And so for me, I would just ask that question of who is the right level, and I don't think it would be us, I think it would be the county. Because it serves such a larger population that would benefit from such a thing beyond our own residents.
I have to agree with you, Councilman Holton. That's probably one of my biggest concerns. When we look at those numbers, it's great to see
Yeah.
that, you know, people are actually utilizing that trail and the canyon. But we're charged with the responsibility of looking after our residents, and if they're not using it, I don't know if in your data you have any numbers of people from Cottonwood Heights, which would be nice to.
Yes, I apologize for that.
But that's my justification for doing anything like this, is we have to know that it creates a benefit for our residents. And, or at least for those that are surrounding us. And then also with Councilmember Highland, I'm with it. I want something that's gonna be able to stimulate our economy here. To bring in sales dollars, but not be disruptive to the movement of our residents as well. Because that marketing and everything else becomes that issue. I really like the idea of looking at those 200 parking spaces that aren't being
Yeah.
used. There at the mouth of the canyon is maybe something we can continue to discuss, but I'm open to it, but we have to find the right mechanism for funding or the right resource for funding, and then the right location where this can take place.
Well, and of all the comments I've made, I don't think I came right out and said I am completely in favor of anything that reduces private vehicles on our roadways in the canyon. It makes it not only a better experience for everyone who's going up or down the canyon. It has an influence on our air quality, so that you're creating shuttle systems, I am in favor of that.
Thank you.
So just so I'm clear, you guys are gonna continue to think about it, or because where I feel like we need to go is at this point, we either do the shuttle system or we say there's not enough interest from the cities. And I feel like part of it, you know, I would love to be able to go to the Central Wasatch Commission and go, they might be in, but it's only if you're gonna be in or something like that. So I just what I'm hearing is this isn't necessarily right for Cottonwood Heights. That you love the idea of a shuttle system, but it's not something you're gonna be looking at for your budget. Am I hearing that? Are you still considering it, or what would you like us to do?
I think what we have to do is have a more in-depth conversation about the possibilities. Not saying it's not gonna happen, but how it could happen if it were gonna happen before we say no.
Okay.
Understanding how this would be able to be incorporated into the city in an effective manner that is a benefit to the city as well. Prior to saying, yes, we're definitely going to do this.
And just to give you,
Thanks for that.
just to give you some background as well, we've had some other nonprofits, and I've met with one that, you know, is focused around autism in our city. And they wanted some stuff at the parks. We didn't have resources. They donated it themselves. I mean, there are many instances where we are reached out to by groups and we just aren't in a position to contribute. And that's a tough thing when you're doing some and not others. And so I'll speak for myself. I don't know if we're in that position today to jump into something like this. For me.
Or if we were, if the Central Wasatch Commission would donate and we could do less than 10,000, I think.
And the county and 5,000 from Holiday and maybe 5,000 from us and
Yeah.
CWC and the county and the city or Salt Lake City. It's like they've got a lot of people coming.
So before, I loved this. So before you guys say necessarily no, you'd like to see what other options can be brought.
Let us know what other people are doing.
Okay,
Super helpful.
that's helpful for us. Thank you so much. I appreciate the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming out.
Hey, yeah, okay. Now we have to hurry on, okay? So we're gonna get to the staff reports on under item 4. And the first concerns the Big Cottonwood Canyon Environmental Assessment Response Letter. This is something that Jared will start us, but we've had a lot of good citizen input. And I appreciate that that this is an important statement.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say much because you really did the lead on this anyway, so, I did send out to you last week just a draft of this, and then since then, Mayor Van has made quite a few changes and talked to several people about it, so I'll let her go ahead and lead the discussion. I'm trying to pull it up here, so let me
Okay.
get it. And I think, and Tiffany sent this out this afternoon as well.
So it's in, is it in this packet?
No, because it went out via email this
Okay.
afternoon, so
So
get it.
there are some minor changes, but if you've had a chance to look through it, it's basically the same. We've been, things like the word carrying capacity or visitor use. We've really looked over these terms to come to what we think is the best. I think that we started with a very good draft from Jared with a good tone that I wanted to keep, that we appreciate the work that UDOT is looking at. And so we just added more bullet points to items that we want to be, them to be aware of that are on our radar regarding flow through the arterials, through the importance that we don't have tolling until there's adequate bus service that will take on people ready to get on the buses that, so that's basically what's in there. I don't know if anyone has questions or wants to.
Well, I feel like I followed and contributed over the last 5 days to this effort. And I will say that I really appreciate the good work. As you said, Jared set a great tone, you continued it, and we got some good input. And I feel very good about the language that appears there. There's things that, as the District 4 representative, I wanted to see emphasized a little more, such as our Fort Union Boulevard. Our many roadways that we own that are intractable during these peak hours. But I overall feel like you have penned a marvelous letter that I think will be readable and hearable by UDOT. And if we can get successful busing off the ground, then we can continue to ask for a little more and refine and make things better. But so thank you for all that work.
I have one sentence that I need some clarification on. And it's in the conclusion.
Okay.
And it's the second sentence of the first paragraph. So the first part, tolling enhanced bus service and bus priority infrastructure must function as an integrated system. Great. Implemented together in both Big and Cottonwood Canyons, and only when transit capacity is sufficient to serve additional riders. What are we
That's the
talking about
tolling.
with additional riders?
That's especially referring to the tolling. So if we need to clarify,
That seems
That's-
unclear to me.
okay, so it's mostly because the enhanced bus service. Yeah, so we might need to work on that.
Yeah, and that's what I understood is that we want tolling when there's additional ridership.
If there's no other option, you don't want the toll. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right,
Right, so that, I don't think that sentence says that. It's talking about.
yeah, thank
that
you for catching.
Enhanced
Because we
bus service,
definitely want the bus service.
isn't implemented until there's sufficient capacity for additional riders or bus
See,
priority infrastructure.
Parentheses right after tolling.
Okay,
I don't know. What do you?
that's my
That's
only
a good
catch.
point, yeah.
And I do appreciate that our feedback was taken and it was circulated and
Very good,
so thank you.
yes,
Yeah.
okay, good. That's great, that's a great change, is it? Yeah. Good, that's excellent. Is there any other changes that anyone would want to make at this point?
No, I thought it was excellent as well. Okay, well, thank you to all those who, I know some of the citizens and I don't want to name one because it may not name another, but I
Yeah.
really appreciate the input.
Yes.
Do you want signature lines for each of you, or do you just want it to come from the mayor?
Thought about that.
Okay.
I actually,
Have you had time to look at this, Councilmember Holton?
Yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent.
Are you different, or do you feel like you could support?
Yeah, I, however you guys want to do it, it's fine with me.
Historically, it's just come from the mayor, but
good.
I'm not saying that it isn't maybe a
I'm good if
great
it comes
idea
from
to.
just the mayor.
I'll have to say, that what I did appreciate is in the beginning says on behalf of the mayor and city council, please accept this. So you are saying it is from us as well.
Well, of course-
But you're the only one signing it.
Maybe we want to see these powerful names associated with it. So,
Yeah.
It's up to
I'm giving you a
It's thought.
compliment.
Thank you.
Matt and I have reputations you don't want to.
Okay. So if everybody's good with it, we'll have Jim submit it to both the Forest Service and to UDOT, because they're both running their comment period right now. Do we need to do anything official, Shane?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Lowercase city of Cotton Heights.
Then
Here,
Eve.
here, we'll just do this. Just say Cottonwood Heights Public College.
And down below in that first paragraph as well.
Oh, yes.
I told them.
I think it auto corrects.
I think it does too.
I know that. And let's see.
Yeah.
I'll look through here and make sure it's not in there again.
Okay. Now we're still in the staff report, right?
Yep.
Next is the teleconference.
This memo didn't make it in the packet, but is on, yeah.
I did email it out this
to
morning.
you. But you can see that. We'll go over and share it. So we have talked about. This is the-
I think
This was in the
airplane.
packet, right? This was already in the packet.
No,
This,
it's not.
It was emailed
It
out.
was emailed.
I emailed it out this morning. It didn't make it in.
So, just so everybody's aware, you're allowed to start or stop any of the franchise type taxes, which this is a franchise type tax on the beginning of a quarter. So January 1, April 1, July 1, or October 1 of each year. And the reason for that is because you have to get your information to the state tax commission so they can put out bulletins to the vendors so that they can adjust their systems and be able to start charging, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So based on the fact that it's now January 6th, the earliest you can actually implement this tax would be July 1. And you haven't basically until, the middle part of March probably to adopt an ordinance that would say, go ahead and do this so that we can have time to communicate to the state tax commission so that they can put it into their official announcements that they send out to all of the taxing entities, or not taxing entities, the vendors, in order for them to implement the tax. Within Salt Lake County, we're the only city that is not currently charging the franchise tax on telecom. We initially, years ago, thought that this would be about $300,000, and I actually went into the distributions and pulled it for holiday, and it was about 120,000 for an annual period, the most recent annual period for holiday. We probably have a little bit more business here that would have telephones in it. And then our population is just slightly larger than holidays. So with taking that into effect, you're probably in the $150,000 range that you would get in terms of revenue, but we don't really have that data to really, say, yeah, this is what it would be. But it would probably be between $120,000 and $150,000 a year that we would get if we were to implement this tax. Nobody generally implements a tax at a partial rate. You can go up to 3.5%. Nobody typically does say 2% or something like that. It's either an all or nothing typically for most entities to do that. I won't say that there's not any city that doesn't do a partial rate, but it's not, at least not in Salt Lake County. I've not seen that. That's kind of the outline of it from my perspective from finance.
Great, and I wanted to bring this back. I brought it back a couple of years ago. And I could see the creek that we were in and looking at our budget and where we were gonna end up. And we're not in a great place. One of our responsibilities as municipal representatives is to keep our budget solid. We're not only planning for today, we're planning for what we do today, no matter, not just this, but in everything we do, will impact this community for years and years. And we're right now the recipients of this situation we're in because of decisions that were made years and years ago. My big focus is making sure we make the right decisions now so that we are not negatively impacted at this time or in the future, to set a precedent that we are going to be conscious of being very thorough and strategic about the changes that we make, especially fiscal changes here to our community. We're responsible for creating an environment where our residents come home, they are comfortable. They may not see all the stuff we do. They don't see all the stuff police does. They don't see all the stuff fire does. They don't see all the stuff public works does. We have to try to keep it that way to the best of our ability, but they also need to see what we do. And sometimes what we do is not popular. It's not easy. It's not fun. That's why, we volunteered for this position for some reason. We got the wrong cup of Kool-Aid. But for me, I would not put myself personally in a position where my personal budget was in jeopardy. I would do everything it takes to make sure that not only my current future was taken care of, but the future of my children. We are charged as government officials to do that for our residents, for them and their children. This is a critical thing that we have to consider, not just now, but as we move into our retreat, to be able to consider other things that have to be done that are not going to really be seen as popular. This is one mechanism to be able to have a very small impact. It's not going to be a great impact on us. And it's not a huge burden. What is it, $8 and something a year, we figure, for our residents. So it's something that is very nominal. It's doable. I live here too. I don't want to pay taxes. Trust me. Trust me. But I also know the realities of living in a community and what is necessary for us to be able to provide the resources that our residents need without thought. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to push this forward now.
Thank you. I agree. Yes.
I've got some thoughts just as we're looking at taxes for this year. I think it's going to be a big topic for the year. Seems to be. And Sean and I, we've been joking about the telecom tax for a couple of years now. It's just been kind of fun. So as I look at taxation, this is just my basic thought and philosophy is, we are an absolute function and creation of the people. And I want to make sure that we are working for them and not just asking for more. And I'm not saying that anyone on the council is saying any of those things. It's just in my mind, I think, okay, because this telecom tax is being discussed in a broader discussion of we need additional revenue. So we're looking at different streams. I'm not a huge fan of fees for the sole purpose that I don't think it's super transparent. I don't think that it's something where, frankly, if we were to vote on this and it's passed, what percentage of the city would even be remotely aware that there is an additional amount of money that they're going to need to pay, which is why I don't love the approach with fees. All that being said is when we're looking for revenue, I still remember what it's like when I had to decide if I could have Netflix this month or not because of the $10 or whatever it was. And there were months where the answer was no, couldn't have it, couldn't do it. And though these are small dollars, these are real choices and real decisions that people are having to go through. Not everyone in our city is in the same position.
No.
I tend to try to connect mentally with those that are probably struggling the most. And I'm more siding on that side than the other. And, when we raise it and we say, hey, it's just a couple bucks, we put a burden on someone that they don't have a choice. It's not a consumption tax. It's not something they're going out there and deciding. It is something that is upon them that they do not have a choice. And so if we're going to add a burden onto someone, in my mind, I think it's only fair that we also have to feel some pain. I don't think we can have others do it without us feeling some pain as well, which means that I believe when government needs more, sometimes you have to restrict a little bit too. And there's a dance and a balance to those things. And again, this is beyond the telecom. This is just as we're starting this year and we're talking about taxation. I've looked at some of these numbers. We're in a unique position because I think that we are more expensive. I think that Cottonwood Heights is more expensive to live in than our surrounding cities. And when you look at the amount of money that residents are paying to their municipality, we're $750.91 on a residential value home of $631,000. And what that includes, which we're again in a unique position, that's to the city, that's the debt service. I don't think that this has Scott, would this have the hillside on it yet? If I looked this up recently,
I
no.
don't think it
No,
does.
not
I don't
yet.
think it does.
So,
So I show
or maybe,
between this, on the property tax anyhow, is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
The property tax, I show that the average home of 819,000 during 2025 calendar year, because that's the most recent that we have, would pay $585 for the base city tax and an additional $94.19 on the GO tax that's authorized. So the total amount of both of those together would be $679.
yeah, so I'm counting 750, so this number's probably low. Because I also am including our Parks and Recreation District, which I know that that's a different government entity. I totally understand that. And I acknowledge that, but that is a function of something that is just within our own city boundaries. And when residents are paying and they're paying that bill, they don't have a pocket in their wallet for the rec center and for this thing and this thing. It is all out of their family budget. And so we're $750 plus whatever hillside. And if you look at Holiday, it's 463. If you look at Sandy, I'm seeing 374. Draper, 322. Draper and Sandy have pretty killer sales tax numbers. And so there's obviously reasons why. But if you live in Cottonwood Heights, you're nearing triple as if you became a resident in one of those cities. And so for me, just this philosophy wise, I think it's pretty tough to add a tax, especially the amount of tax when we've had these briefings with staff to be able to kind of marry things. It looks like what's been discussed, and I know that's not a proposal right now, but is 37%. That's a bunch. And what happened with Hillside, that's a bunch of money that philosophically, as we approach taxation, I think we always say this city's doing this and this city doing this. Well, we're more expensive. And I think if we're gonna just ask for more and we're gonna ask residents to feel that pain, then I don't know how we as a city don't have some contractions of some sort. I know that changes levels of service, and I know maybe that's not what the residents want to do. And we have another item on the agenda where we're talking about that. We want to hear from the residents. And at the end of the day, maybe the residents say, you know what, we're okay to pay more. But I do know that there are many people. We did a little fundraiser for someone locally in my neighborhood who's trying to make ends meet. So we just did a fundraiser for them. I'm not quite sure how they're gonna be able to afford more.
Well, you know, I completely understand.
But I also understand.
Yeah,
where
I
you're coming from.
understand.
I love you, Sean.
I just don't, I just don't want the whole being harmed by important decisions that we have to make.
Yeah.
We live in a community, so these are all shared burdens, shared
100%.
responsibilities. And I think with that, the transparency and the mechanism for, communicating to our residents, most people understand these things. Now, when we look at folks that are having a tough time, that's something that I take to heart. Most people know that about me.
Yeah.
But we also have those realities of our service levels. We're right now pretty skinny as a city. We are pretty skinny as a city, and we need to continue to look for ways to improve the way that we operate, to improve our cost savings internally. But we also need to make sure that we're keeping up with this burden that we have to be able to provide those services and things that we do need to provide to our community. And that's where we come into this thing.
The last thing I'll say, just real quickly, we're in a very unfortunate position as a city government because we're that last line of defense where there is no one closer. And when you're going to the grocery store and you're seeing inflation and your health costs are going up and you've been on fixed income and basically it's all continuing to be wiped away. And everyone along the line has been raising and asking for more, pretty much everyone, right? And we're that last line, which it's so much easier for them to do so. And we're the last one, and which puts us in a disadvantage, but it's a good thing as well.
Yeah, it puts us in a very hard spot, but it also could put us in a worse spot if we do not react.
Yes.
Yes.
That's.
Yeah,
what-
so sales tax responds to inflation. That's great.
Yeah, it does.
You said something very important, which is we are really a bedroom community with some commercial. And it's enviable that even Midvale has so much more commercial than we do. So when we're looking around, so that is an additional burden. I will go back and say, I challenge you to live on your 2018 income. And it's 29% inflation, and no matter, yes, okay, great, try to tighten our belts, but you cannot come here and say that costs have not significantly risen because of the inflationary pressures of the last few years.
No
And that
question.
will require an adjustment. Unfortunately, do we want to do it? No. But I agree with Councilmember Newell that we have to make our budget whole. And we were the beneficiaries of ARPA funds. We no longer have those. So we do need to look out into the future and say, how are we going to continue to fund the good people that work in our city, that continue to provide the services? And there is a benefit for the taxes we pay, when that's up to us to decide, what is the benefit? How much is that? And I always say in government, people want Cadillac service at Chevrolet prices. Well, that's kind of tough. So it's great that we're having this discussion, but
I think this is where our residents need to get engaged and involved, because it's not, you can't go forever without raising taxes. It's impossible. You just can't do it. It's not sensible. But the question is how? And that's the level, but that's also who's bearing a burden along the way. If you've had government for 100 years and they've just been asking more and they've continued to grow, but they've never contracted in any way, shape or form, I, as a resident, would say, I'm not sure that that's the best use of my dollars and the most responsible, which is why I'm not the one that's going to solve this problem. I think our residents need to step up and tell us what they want to have happen in their city, because these services are for them.
Yeah,
For
so
They are for
I
them.
think that's a perfect segue for our keeping on our time to move on to the flash.
I have one
Yeah.
more comment. What I do not want to see is what happened to a number of our municipalities a few years ago, when they were stricken with 110 to 115%
Increase.
tax increase.
Yeah.
I refuse to do that to our residents.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to have this discussion now.
And because we are eating into our reserve to the point where we will not be able to match grants and get funds that we could apply for, because we won't have the funds that we need in the reserve. And we don't want to be so close to the reserve that we can't do smart things for our city. So I think it's imperative that we have this discussion, and this telecom tax is being paid by everyone else in the county. So it's kind of unfair in a way for our city not to be taking advantage of this one, in my mind. And I think there are places, I think we just increased our travel for the council. Maybe that's a place where we can cut. I'm happy to look at some places where we can make cuts, and it might be on us. So I agree, there might be cuts, but I think overall the staff has been very limited for these past 7 years to any cuts. And there are incredibly important things that we need to invest in. For example, with security for our computer system and other things that are overdue that we can't put off any longer. We would have irreparable harm to our community if we aren't safe in these areas. So let's move on now to,
Feedback.
thank you. This has been a very good discussion. Thank you, Councilman Member.
Thanks.
There's something to have more news, so this might be quick, but due to communication issues probably on both ends and just the holidays and everything else, I had sent last month the changes to the second survey that we had talked about in November with flash vote. So what's up is, and this, I sent this out this morning as well, but this is what I sent to them from our conversation back then with the changes that we've made to those questions. Has not gone out yet, so I was hoping to have results by now, but we'll work with them to get that out this month. If there's anything you'd like to change though, we need one more opportunity, I guess.
Looks good.
so this is what they sent to us.
This is what I
No,
sent to them.
Jared sent it.
So after we had our meeting,
So they'll, okay, that was my biggest concern. This didn't sound like it was actually from a survey company, because I know there's some things
No,
in
they
here that
still
need to be
need to go through
massaged,
or-
changed, okay. Okay, so my only comment would be to ask them on question 3, if we should rank those, have the
Okay,
respondent
yeah.
rank those priorities rather than just say, oh yeah, I want these 6 things. And then, the same thing with question 4. So just please get their feedback on question 4.
Choose their top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that's better feedback. Maybe if it's, rank your top 3, so that
Okay.
you don't have to rank 7 items.
Right,
I think that's really valuable feedback for us.
yeah, because I said choose up to 5 and maybe just rank 3 instead, or, yeah. Okay.
Are, if you're gonna be talking about increases for them. How, I really think that if we're really wanting to get feedback from the residents, I think they probably need to better understand what that increase looks like. Because when you're looking
Well,
at
and we don't.
paying
have that
more,
yet.
Wait, that's not, did you read this? That's not,
It doesn't talk
We're not
about the
asking-
increase, it's just.
we're asking, are you
educational.
pretty, are you do you know how much of your property tax comes to the city?
correct?
And then, if you were to spend $100, doesn't mean $100 new dollars. $100 is a budget, where would you spend it? So we're not asking those questions yet about whether you want an
Do you,
increase or not.
do you plan to
Do you plan?
do something that where you're wanting to engage? Because
It's gonna be our second of 6 surveys.
Oh.
We have 4 surveys, and we have to do that by August, which I mentioned to Jared. So we gotta start clipping on this.
Yeah, I think it would be very important to ask, to elevate to our residents this process that we will be going through. And then to engage them as much as we can, so that they are made aware of the decisions we're making and that we invite them through these survey questions to consider. I think that this is a great.
I think after we get into the budget, you can ask specific questions on at that point.
Yeah, I'd love to have this back,
We need more people
and
from the
then-
district.
consider a second
oh,
survey.
you will if you ask about taxes.
Yeah, I think the
We're
survey after
700.
this, after the retreat, we would be able to maybe have a budgetary survey.
Yeah.
And really be focused.
I
on
think
that.
that's pretty important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I do too, I do too, I think it's critical.
I still want my short-term rental survey.
Yes, I do too.
As one of the remaining.
Okay.
Don't crowd me out.
No, we won't. That's really all I have.
Okay,
No.
then we'll move on to the legislative priorities discussion. So this is our first year while that the city is going to have a meeting with our legislators next Friday morning. You want to lead this discussion?
Just gonna let you do it.
Okay.
I can if you want, but I won't be here for
You
the
won't be
meeting,
here.
so.
So I, as a legislator, have been going to Holiday, Midvale, Murray, have had these meetings usually in December. Because frankly, by now, our legislators are pretty jammed. So I'm happy that we're having a breakfast on Friday, and Jared reports that several of them will be able to attend. And when I was, as a legislator, I found these important because then I meet the staff, so I hope our staff will be there. It's a chance for them to meet Keith Russo and Riley Pilgrim and to know who our public works director is. They don't know these things often. And for these people to ask questions and you to let them know your priorities. As a legislator, I often feel like the cities are on the defense during the legislative session. And it's time for us to let them know, and we'll have our city lobbyist, Brian Allen and Greg Curtis there. And it's a time for them to share the bills that they're aware of. I know that there is a potential bill that I'm concerned about that would limit the ability for us as cities to raise our property taxes. That is a-
concerned about.
Yes, so we want to be thinking of any other ones, and maybe I will ask Brian to send us all an email before that Friday so that we can be aware of others that he'll bring up. So we can be up to speed with him. As council, do you have any other things that you want to share with? Or as staff? Staff, because I think, again, this has been great for me to meet with Midvale and hear the impacts of the homeless shelter there for them. It's a time for us to inform them of our city priorities. And obviously, Wasatch Boulevard and the ski congestion, the gondola, all of these things are things that we want to reiterate our priorities.
Yeah, I think we bear a huge burden for state tourism that isn't really adequately acknowledged. And so that would definitely be something I'd like to bring to their awareness. It depending upon the time, I'd also just like to briefly mention how they made our lives very difficult with annexation. They told our citizens around us, you have to join a city, and then they made it impossible for them to join a city. So I will just probably bring that to their awareness and, so that they might, but I'm not gonna take a lot of time on that.
In that is to piggyback on that, like I said, we've had 3 annexations and it seems like all 3 had a different process.
Yes,
And each one of those processes had sub-processes.
yes.
And this isn't being funny, but we had people interpreting those processes differently. We got all the way to the lieutenant governor's office, who turned it around because there was northeast instead of southwest, which is the same coordinate. But they said, we don't like the way that's written, so we went 2 weeks
was absurd.
backwards. You see what I'm saying? So a fundamental checklist that we, as if they're gonna mandate, we have to annex or, do those types of things, a fundamental checklist. And I believe there was another process that we might have discussed, Jim.
Taxation.
The
Yeah.
process, especially, and I'm not saying, this is your council's choices here, but when we start looking at those things, last year, there were some municipalities and places who weren't able to do it because they missed some
They missed a checkbox.
minutia,
Well,
a checkbox
they
on
missed
the list.
putting an item on the checklist for those cities.
Yeah, so things like that, clarification on processes,
Yeah.
or at least streamlining. I mean, what's the difference between a citizen-led annexation versus a city-led annexation versus, I don't know, I don't know.
Okay.
So clarification and
Good.
So did you say you will send out the letter that you're gonna send to them, to us, to review?
I'm gonna ask Brian Allen to send us what he's gonna bring up.
Okay,
Because I just want to let us, all of you know that as I was serving as the state legislator, we have a great service through Brian Allen. He has decades of experience with the legislature. He works really closely with our legislators, and he has a really good heart. I'm grateful that we have him in our contract, and I'm looking forward to getting to know Greg Curtis.
So Brian and I met and went through these things that he and I were talking about. Most of them we've talked about and touched on. There's quite a few in there there's several about land use and short-term rentals and ADUs and things like that. There's some about taxation. So he's got a list of things that
I'll have him.
he and I kind of went through as well.
what about from Greg Curtis? We're paying him the same, right? What's he doing for us? Could he send us a letter?
We could ask him for what he's looking for, because Greg is more on the funding side of the lobbying, where Brian
Great,
works on. So yeah, we can ask Greg.
love to hear that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else from staff or? Yes.
Prosecutors. We're getting some litigation because our prosecutors are contract prosecutors and not employed actually by the city. And so we have attorneys who are suing us, saying that they don't have the authority to prosecute our criminal and traffic cases.
So Holiday's prosecutor is retiring and the firm is no longer going to represent cities. So Holiday is actually it's a great point to bring up, but Holiday is actually going to go in-house for the prosecutor. So that will raise our costs a little bit when they do that, but I think it's because the in-house prosecutors will still have governmental immunities, the contracts that they're worried about.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Because these are all important. I don't want to close this discussion unless we're complete.
Well, along that same contract prosecutor line, a few years ago, we faced a lawsuit where a plaintiff was claiming that cities cannot use contract prosecutors. Instead, they had to be in-house prosecutors. There's a particular statute that specifically allows counties to contract with prosecutors, but there isn't an analogous provision in municipal law. So I will send you something tomorrow with a proposed statutory amendment. That is just part of the contract prosecutor issue. The governmental immunity issue is another one my little blurb doesn't address, because that wasn't an issue at that time, but I'll send that to you tomorrow. It's a small statutory change.
Just one other quick thing. I know, land use is always a big topic at the legislature and I think last year there were 800 and something bills proposed on land.
He was there.
Yeah,
Oh, on land use alone.
On land use.
land use, there were a lot. There were
For 300 and something.
like
on land
hundreds.
use.
So I guess just reiterating that local control, I believe, is always best. I get the intent of a lot of the legislation, but when you get into land use law and codes, how you write it really matters. The words you use really matter. And having cities have the ability to craft language that's specific to their community is better than kind of a blank slate general thing. So I know, generally these hot topics are always talked about, allowing apartments on commercially zoned land, apartments by right, allowing commercial buildings to be converted to apartments, accessory dwelling units, attached, internal, detached, are always a topic. Parking mandates, and then minimum lot sizes for starter homes. And I think something else that is missed a lot of times is there's this big talk about housing affordability and creating starter homes and affordability and attainability. I think what's missed in the conversation is an inventory of what cities already have for starter homes and inventory. The huge push right now is, we need to build, 500 new starter homes. And it's like, well, we could use resources to retain existing housing stock that's already at or below that price point. But I don't think cities are getting credit for what they already have in the community. It's all cities have to make room to build new stuff. And that's at the expense of existing neighborhoods. And
Boy, I really appreciate you bringing that forward. I have hungered for hearing more of what you just said over these last 4 years. And, you touched on a number of things, but that idea of helping our existing homeowners who live in those modest homes, keep those homes. What mechanisms are there to, instead of just this complete emphasis on build. I know Sean Steinman brought up how he had done a few projects, not in Cottonwood Heights, about taking, I forget what kind of commercial building, but adapting them. In fact, it might have been, was it old hotel? Anyways, into apartments, but this idea of attainable housing, small, all those. So thank you for, this is what my interest is.
So I think there's definitely room to achieve a lot of these goals in the city. It just makes me nervous if the state were to say, we're getting rid of lot sizes, essentially, to say anywhere it's residential, you can have a 5,000 square foot lot. I get that might make sense, but if we get lots up in the Tavashi development, subdividing into these tiny lots, I mean, that it changes the character of an area, but I think there is room in the city to have small lots. It may not be the entire city. So being strategic and calculated in how these goals are achieved, and that's best done at the local level. And I understand that a lot of this legislation is driven by communities that just don't want to play ball and they don't want to accommodate. But that puts other communities in a tough spot that are willing to do that, but now have their hands tied to achieve that. So those are all things that I'll prepare to talk about.
That would be
I
great.
really like the fact that you're looking at current inventory that we have. One of the realities we have to realize here in Cottonwood Heights is our dirt is very expensive. And even the smaller, moderate homes here are unaffordable for many, many people. So we're in a situation that's a little different. Anybody on the East Bench is a little different than the communities that have blank slates to work with. And that differentiation is something I think that our legislators need to emphasize as well. It's not the same for everybody. And we have to look at it differently.
This is where we are grateful that our city is part of the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and we pay fees to be part of that, and they do an excellent job of advocating for cities and counties at our cities at the state level, and trying to always say that local control is best. And I have met with, since I was elected, met with one of a nearby, he thinks he lives in Cottonwood Heights, but he lives in Honolulu. But he builds what he calls, their company builds flex ADU homes, so that they are a home pre-built to be an ADU. And the benefit of that is some of the lowest cost homes that they build are $550, but that's 2 families living in them. So they are affordable, and they're built with that walls and things so that if both people in the home have dogs, they don't hear each other. Like that's a type of an ADU that could be a really good investment for someone, because both families are going to be comfortable. And anyway, I think developers are being creative, and he would love to build something like that, like where one of our churches might be torn down off of Fort Union. So we have to be open as a community to find where we could and put them on smaller lots so that they're as affordable as possible, because we want people to be able to move here and not lose our schools continually. We've lost some already, and we don't want that to continue. We want to bring in as many families and people of all ages and incomes as we can. So, all right, anything else there? Okay, then we'll move on to the final one on this staff reports, which is our distribution and collection of Mayor Pro Tempore ballots. And we have 4 phenomenal council members. I feel very fortunate to work with each one of you, and I think Sean has done an excellent job of serving as our.
Don't have to do much.
Well, good. But it's important to have you there, and it's important to share this responsibility. So do we want to have a discussion before the voting, or?
Yeah, Shane, what happens if we each vote for ourselves?
Keep voting until somebody wins, you
Oh,
know?
there's black smoke coming out of your chimney.
Yeah, that's right. Just,
Rob,
circulate the ballots.
I appreciate that effort.
You're welcome. They're intended to be secret ballots, so when you fold it over, and give it to Tiffany, Tiffany will tabulate them, and then we will nip back and fill in the name on the
Does the mayor
on the
vote?
resolution. Yes.
Yeah, the mayor
yes,
votes.
Mayor votes.
That's what I thought.
Voting
I just wanna
member of
make
the
sure it's
council.
like city manager doesn't vote?
No.
do you want to?
Does anyone want to, does any council member want to say anything before we vote?
I've not voted yet.
Right.
Well, I made a statement at the last council meeting, so I think my colleagues know that I'm prepared to serve and I would like to serve.
Anyone else?
It is, I mean, it's something that I appreciate rotating, and like you said, you don't really, if you're here all the time, you don't do much, so.
Yeah, what's your plan? That's really. what the-
I'm
Perhaps if you attend
as
the
much as I can, but things happen. So we all know that.
Gonna collect them then, Tiffany.
Sure. Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Here, I'll give you mine too.
Don't worry. Don't
Yeah.
be-
I'm on.
Okay.
I was blinded. Don't be like.
This is serious.
What?
Do I tabulate them?
Oh, Sean, no,
No.
well, I don't care. So,
I'm gonna try to
go ahead
be
and have it. And.
We need to know.
and announce this round.
I'm not sure. So.
Wait, who's the poll watcher?
I will.
True,
Scott's there, he'll watch.
Who's the poll watcher? That's true.
Yeah, voter ID. Voter ID.
Me too. I don't
Get
use
to
this, yeah.
somebody's-
Let's cover
Oh,
all.
I already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can find more. ways.
I think.
Probably gonna use it at all.
No, I mean.
This.
The only things that are stuck, it's like, there's the belief in that setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I see.
The initial discussion though was beyond, the initial discussion though was beyond.
Just announce it and then
The
throw
discussion
that in. You don't need to announce.
Help with some of the causes that we're working on, that also align with some of the initiatives we're working on. So it was more than that, but anyway.
Somebody throw something crazy out there. If we took our travel budgets, which is what, $10,000 a piece or something like that. And said, we're gonna take $2,000-3,000. Here we go with the,
Put in some trees,
Jeff-
fund the.
yeah.
transit.
So I'm still, I need to work on the amendment to the policy so that it gives you that.
Well, just so.
Yeah, flexible. Yeah.
He talks about their.
The shuttle.
I'm
the
using
shuttle.
a chunk to help.
But you gotta revise the policy before,
That's what she's saying.
before you can do that.
Well, I'm
So that all
that's
of
my
us have
hope.
an opportunity.
I hope.
Yeah.
Because I'm
She's
using-
ready to announce
I think
the
he's
successful.
I don't want
Candidate.
to, but I have to, because I don't know any better, that projects can be funded through some of that. No, no.
We're ready to give the
Except for
results
the-
here.
Sorry.
Councilmember Highland. Thank you.
So we will fill that name into the resolution that you'll be considering tonight. And so we'll do that during the meal break, okay?
For sharing the.
Great, then we're ready for our review of calendars and upcoming events. Okay. So Saturday, the February 7th, from 10 a.m. till 12 noon is the Lunar New Year celebration at City Hall. Have we had a good turnout before?
Yes.
It's actually been pretty popular.
Yeah, I went last year. It was fantastic. Yeah.
January last year, but this year's February.
They're actually worried that our facility is getting to be too small. So it's been
What is the Lunar New Year? Sorry, I.
Chinese New Year.
Well, yeah, so what do we do? Do we have Chinese food and?
Yeah, there's
Yes, and-
dancers and they have all kind of, it's very cultural.
Cool.
It's,
I'll have to come
Yeah,
up with that
yeah.
if Chinese food. all flat
Yeah.
out
Do
there.
people have to register for it or they just come?
no, no.
So, yeah, so. A lot of the Chinese community call it Chinese New Year and the Koreans call it Lunar New Year. That's literally the difference.
Oh, is that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
So you're the reason.
Because
it's
it'd be
calling
kind
it-
of strict, if Koreans were like, it's Chinese New Year, I mean,
Okay, then Friday, February, oh no, yeah,
Yeah.
Friday, February 20th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is the Cozy Paint Night at City Hall. And that cost is $20 per person and you do
You have to
register.
register for that, and these
They
events
sell out.
sell out pretty quick. You wanna
It's
go, you
fine.
better go check and see if it's.
Yeah,
saying
it's fun, but
probably
it
already
sells
done.
out quick.
And then Thursday, March 19th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. The Jazz Ambassadors of the U.S. Army Field Band at Butler Middle School. And tickets are required, but it's a free event.
This is a really cool opportunity. They don't come every year. This is the Army Band. And I think they've invited a few kids from the high school. to participate with them.
Has that been advertised already? There are tickets
Oh, it's-
that are
I don't know.
being distributed yet? I am not sure.
See if Barbara or I can look it up quicker.
I know, right? At the rate.
I've heard, while she's looking that up, I've heard that our citizens love these events and would even love to have more of them. But that's great. We have these beautiful schools that we can take our citizens, enjoy things there.
I'll have to see if it's been advertised yet.
We
I
don't-
don't know if everything's solidified on that one, the details, so.
Pretty proud.
I don't think that it is yet.
We're still new in the new year.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true, but we're working on our February newsletter, so.
Yeah.
It's going.
Should go with February.
It's just way out.
Right? And since there is no need for a closed session this meeting, unless anyone else has any other thing to add, then I welcome a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
One second.
Bye.
I-